So, you've probably heard this term floating around a lot lately, basic income. It feels like it just exploded onto the scene, right? But what if I told you this supposedly radical new idea has a secret history that goes back way, way back?
Okay, let's just get into it. Because this isn't some fringe concept cooked up in a basement. We're talking about tech titans like Elon Musk and Sam Altman throwing money at experiments. We're talking about Martin Luther King Jr. and Nobel Prize winners backing it. And get this, way back in 1968, 1,200 economists signed on in support. It even passed the U.S. House of Representatives once. So yeah, this idea has some serious weight behind it.
Which brings us to the big question for today. Where did this thing actually come from? And what is it about this idea that gives it such incredible staying power, making it pop up again and again throughout history? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. To really get a handle on basic income, we have to rewind the clock. A long way. This isn't some brand new idea from Silicon Valley. Turns out, it's a dream that people have had for centuries.
And this timeline is wild, because it shows how this idea just keeps showing up. It starts in ancient Athens with this idea of paying citizens for doing their civic duty. Then it pops up in medieval England, not as a payment, but as a basic right to survive off the land. Fast forward, and you've got Enlightenment thinkers like Thomas More and Thomas Paine giving it this really powerful philosophical punch. And then, it almost became law in the United States in the 70s, a huge what-if moment in history.
And this quote from Thomas Paine, it just nails it. His point was, look, when land got privatized, everyone lost out on their shared natural inheritance. So a payment to everyone isn't a handout, it's not charity, it's justice. It's basically a dividend you get for something that was once yours.
Okay, so we've seen the history, which is pretty fascinating. But let's just pause for a second and make sure we're all on the same page. What exactly are we talking about when we say basic income? It really just boils down to three simple things. First, it's periodic. You get it regularly, like a paycheck. Second, it's universal. That means everyone gets it, whether you're a billionaire or have nothing. And third, and this is the real game changer, it's unconditional. No strings attached. You don't have to prove you're looking for a job or anything like that. So, and this is maybe the most important part to understand, this is not just welfare with a new name. Traditional welfare systems are targeted, they're conditional, and man, do they come with a mountain of paperwork and stigma. Basic income is designed to be the exact opposite. Because it's universal and automatic, the whole point is to get rid of the bureaucracy and the shame, and just create a simple, stable floor for everybody. All right, so that's the theory. Sounds pretty good on paper, right? But the real question is, what happens when you actually do it? What happens when you just give people money and see what they do? Let's start with this amazing, kind of accidental experiment. In the 90s, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians opened a casino, and they decided to split the profits with every single member of the tribe. It ended up being about $4,000 a year per person. And luckily, some researchers were already there studying the community, so they had a perfect before and after picture. And the results? Well, they were incredible. It wasn't just about the money. For the poorest families, that extra cash had these amazing ripple effects on their kids. We're talking better mental health, staying in school longer, and a big drop in crime. It really showed how just having a stable financial floor can change everything.
And we see that same kind of story play out again in a pilot study in India. Over 6,000 people got a small, regular income, and the changes were huge. People were healthier, more kids were in school, and a bunch of them even started their own little businesses. And one of the most powerful findings was that women, who got their own cash directly, felt way more independent and in control of their lives.
Now check out this example from London because it's just so powerful. A charity just gave 13 long-term homeless individuals a small cash grant. No rules, no caseworkers telling them what to do. They were just trusted. And within a year, 11 of them were in stable housing. The whole thing cost way less than the usual cycle of emergency services and policing. Just incredible.
Okay, so the evidence from these pilots is pretty compelling. But that brings us back to today. Why is this old idea having such a huge comeback right now? Well, the modern case for basic income really rests on three big arguments.
You can think of them as the three pillars holding the whole thing up: justice, freedom, and security. And each one really speaks to a major anxiety in our world today. So the justice argument is basically Thomas Paine 2.0. The idea is that so much of our wealth today comes from things we all own together, like clean air, natural resources, even all the data and knowledge that powers our tech. A basic income, in this view, isn't a cost, it's a dividend. And it would be funded by things like carbon taxes,
or by shifting around subsidies that are already going to big corporations.
Then you've got freedom and security, and these two are totally connected. The freedom part is all about power. When you have an income you can count on, you have the actual freedom to say no to a terrible job or a bad boss. And that's tied to security. Having that safety net gives you the security to take a risk, maybe start a business or go back to school or stay home to care for a sick parent without fearing you'll lose everything.
And all of this leaves us with one giant final question. We're living in a time with insane levels of wealth right alongside massive inequality. We're staring down a future where automation could completely change what it means to work. So in a world like that, maybe this ancient idea of a universal, unconditional, basic income isn't so radical after all. Maybe its time has finally come. It's definitely something to think about.